Hello. Hey everyone.
Yes!
It's great to be here for another Friday night with everyone. I'm here with Mandy and Jeff as always, and Andrew is running the video tonight. The rest of our crew's out and about. But we're excited because we're going to talk a little bit about something we've been working on all summer long. An idea we call a food fence, which is ultimately growing stuff on a fence. You know,
it is as complicated as it sounds. It is a fence that has food growing along it.
I guess when you're a gardener and you look, like I looked at our fence and I was like, look at that trellis. And basically all a fence is a trellis without plants growing on it.
Right, right.
And funny enough, we've also found this week, and we're about to play our third video we made, and Mandy's actually not seen it since it's edited.
I know,
I finished it up and published it, so we're gonna watch that to kick it off, and it's our third one about how, while we discovered early a fence can be a trellis maybe might also work as a fence, because while the fence has kept our chickens and dogs and sometimes kids and sometimes dogs, I guess, out, we were hoping it would also, you know, where it's right on our line, we wouldn't have issues with rabbits or anything, but it seems as though we were wrong. So, well, anyways, do we want to queue up?
I'm so excited.
I'm
excited.
I
want to see this.
Let's do it. Play it, Andrew. Thanks, bud. Oh. In the meantime,
well, we'll also be talking about how
Fences.
we started it. So this is kind of like part 3. We're far down the road in our food fence journey, but the rest of tonight will be how we got to where we're about to show you, and some of the lessons that we learned along the way. And just how many different gardens you can do. You know, raised beds, planted containers, food fences, whatever you'd like.
We're getting the science ready.
All right, let's do it.
All right, play.
Well, so earlier I brought home some big bags that had a lot of worms in them, and joyfully watched the chickens, pick through, and they learned there's worms in those fabric pots. And so I brought home our peppers and all these things we'd been going for a while, and I came home to a big mess and a bunch of dead plants, unfortunately, in those containers.
Hey everyone, this is Food Fence Part 3, Building a Trellis. So if you've seen our other food fence videos, you'll know that we were really hoping that we wouldn't have to add any additional trellising for our tomatoes and our cucumbers, our sugar snap peas, and our peppers. But as you can see, this garden has absolutely exploded, which is a great problem to have. So we've learned a few lessons. One, because we planted a little bit further away from the fence line to keep the chickens from eating our plants, a lot of the plants are coming this way, so we need to get them back up and onto the fence. The second thing was our sugar snap peas in particular are beginning to get picked off. The tops are being eaten, probably by some deer, maybe some bunnies as well. And we're hoping with just some additional trellising, maybe adding a couple bells to the trellis, we can at least just alert the dog when an animal's over by the fence line, and then he can come and scare them away. So there's lots of ways to build a trellis, and we've settled on 6-foot bamboo stakes with twine. We thought about doing 4, but they're just a little bit too short. This is like Goldilocks. The 6-foot I think are gonna be just right. We're gonna do it in an angle like this with twine coming down. And then the 8-foot bamboo is just more than we need. All right, so let's get to it. We're gonna put these 6-foot bamboo stakes all along the fence at an angle like this. And then super simple, we're just gonna connect the twine coming down so that we can be pushing everything towards the fence line. And I think that's it. All right, Matt, let's do this. Yay! All great gardeners know it's important to trellis early. And if you can't do that, trellis late. So as you can see, we've waited a little bit too long to trellis these tomatoes, but that's okay. We're gonna make it work. What I'm gonna do here is I've tied the twine to the fence here, and then I'm just gonna literally wrap it around this bamboo pole. This is gonna be so easy, and you can already see it's gonna start pulling everything in. And then I'll kind of work to get all the plants on the inside. I'm gonna go down, do the entire fence length, and then just do a few more rows of the twine and we'll be in business. So I think this is gonna be really good. I'm gonna make sure as I go that anybody that's hanging on the outside of the twine gets picked up and put in before I kind of cross this path to get everyone going towards the fence here. The earlier you trellis, the less chance that you'll have things break by having to pull them and move them into your trellis line. But I've obviously waited too long and it is what it is. So I'll just be as gentle as I can. Let's get to it. So we did 4 layers of twine throughout the length of the fence to create a trellis on top of our fence trellis, just to get everything moving the right direction. As the plants grow out, the smaller plants, we'll be looking for opportunities to tuck them in up underneath the twine. So you can see some of these tomatoes aren't large enough to reach the twine, but as they get bigger, we'll tuck them up and underneath so that everything is going towards the fence. Because a lot of the plants we did move to get them underneath the new trellis system, I'm gonna give them a nice watering to help them with a little bit of the shock of being jostled around. But I think this is gonna work just great. I hope you like the look of it. Thanks so much for joining us. For more tips on how to grow life where you live, be sure to like and subscribe. It looks good.
Cool.
Yes, great job
Sweet.
editing that.
Thanks. It was fun to work on. I mean, we just put that together this morning, and you know, it's been a fun journey doing this thing. It's not, we do things differently, I'd say, right? You agree with that? Like
you and I, yes.
I'd say one of the things you always find about trellising is like, I've had people be like, "Is this too soon to trellis?" I'm like, "You can put a trellis up when they're seedlings.
Exactly.
It's not gonna. It's actually probably a good call because they'll probably keep things from messing with them more. And
yeah.
I wish we'd done that, to be honest. Like put more trellising, especially the sugar
always.
snaps would be such a different place.
Always.
Protect them from pests and allow them to stretch out.
Yeah.
Because they're just kind of flopping on themselves, and it's been a busy spring, you know.
Yeah.
Nobody likes a floppy sugar snap, you know?
No one
likes
wants a floppy sugar snap
floppy
piece.
sugar snap. That's one for the books.
Andrew, do you like floppy sugar snap piece?
Yeah, they saute butter.
Oh, well.
True.
That could be
Okay,
true.
so Andrew likes floppy.
Okay, we are 1 out of 3 people. I'm sorry, 1 out of 4 people like, you know, floppy sugar.
I
snap
like
piece.
that we started with that because everyone kind of gets to see where we went with this idea
Where we're at.
and where we're at. Yeah, exactly. Where we're at. That's a good way of saying it. But I think it'd be helpful to say how we built that because I think
Yeah.
we did it in a super unique way. And I know it kind of played in the beginning, but we might have some more people watching now. Should we play why a food fence or should we talk through?
Well, let's talk a little bit like
All
why
right.
things I've thought about. One, it's nice because it's utilizing an area that otherwise you wouldn't, and that fence is great. It's got like a big, fairly southern eastern facing
Yeah.
wall, right? And like, so if you have a space like that that you can build against, it's often like so underappreciated for plant growing.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
Yeah, well, and some of the reasons we chose also was, we have chickens,
Yeah.
and they destroy everything that you plant.
I wish we'd gotten. I will try to get some clips over it. But if you look on like their reach, like there's like a gap about that wide on the fence where it's like hollowed out, and then all of a sudden it's where they can't reach,
Yeah.
and there's like the soil's about 6 inches higher because
We have it in the part 1 video that we attempted to plant 1 chicken head away from the fence line, and you very boldly attempted to plant an herb garden where the chickens could get to, and they absolutely decimated it.
I did a live stream. I wasn't sure how it would go. I thought if I planted, like probably 30,000 seeds, but it actually kind of backfired because what they learned was there was constantly things sprouting up, and they just would first thing in the morning go into that garden and just look for any little speck of green and eat it.
Yeah, no, it
And so it is just cleared completely.
Yeah.
And I think about if I had put a fence around that space, how beautiful it would be right now. It was just flowing.
Yeah.
Black to
Yeah.
purple to green basil. It would have been really pretty. But
It would have been really pretty, but it was
But now it's just a
had
dream.
a
Now it's
mass
just a
destruction.
yeah. Anyways.
So
Can't
yes,
trust chickens.
yeah, that is
Chickens
the
can be pretty
downside of
destructive.
chickens. So the chickens were one reason, and then another was just this idea that, like you were saying, like we've already built this gorgeous tall trellis, which is the fence, and why not utilize that and use it as a free resource to hold up all of these binding plants? So what we did plant was tomatoes, cucumbers, tons of sugar snap peas, and peppers. So that's kind of, the peppers don't necessarily need trellising, but we wanted to have peppers. And certainly if the plants get big, it doesn't harm them to be near some extra support. So we threw those in there. But I think the way we built it, to your point, we do things differently. I've never heard anybody talk about the way that we built this garden.
Yeah.
Do you want to go into your idea around it?
Yeah, talk to me more. Tell me what you think.
Yeah, so we weed whacked. So obviously when you build a vegetable garden, people think like, okay, a raised beds, I'm gonna add, maybe I'll do a couple containers, maybe I'll do something on my windowsill. And Matt was like, no, I know what we'll do. We'll weed whack the lawn away from this fence, and then we won't put a single shovel into the ground. We'll build up a mound of soil, worm castings, fertilizer, lime. I have the correct order. And it'll be our garden, and it worked.
I think it's funny. You hear a lot with no-till. There's like a thought about like no-till gardening, right? I think, and no-till typically means like you're not tilling the ground, right? But the question is, like, what are you doing? And so, like, defining something as being a not doing doesn't make a lot of sense. And then I realized, like, we were doing kind of like, this is how you can do a no-till, is basically to scalp the area. Because, if you don't till, like, how do you plant, right? Like, how do you seed? And so, basically, if you weed whack everything to high hell and then cover it in fertilizer to burn whatever exposed roots are left, it's an opportunity. And then those roots are still there. You're not disrupting that soil level. You're not creating tons of leaching and runoff. So it's kind of a no-till methodology. Scalp, burn with fertilizer, cover in soil, and plant. And it does seem like things are taking root, which is cool. And that was not an area with healthy soil. It was probably the weakest soil in the entire yard. So it's neat to try to, we're now trying to push that to be the best soil in the yard because it's where, our gardens are. So
it's so true. You're making me think. I wonder if we should plant. Would we be able to plant a cover crop at the end of the year there to build the soil up in early spring?
That's a great idea. Or, an edible one, right? Like sugar snap peas, right, are legumes,
yeah, that's
right?
a great point.
And so those things are totally enriching the soil. So
it's a great point.
Edible cover crop.
Yeah, maybe we'll just reseed. So for those of you who don't know, what's great about cover crops is there are some types of plants, like legumes, that actually can take nitrogen out of the air and put it into the soil. Now, plants that aren't those are grabbing nitrogen out of the soil and using it to grow. So over time, nitrogen gets depleted because all of the vegetative life on top of the ground or that have roots in the soil are grabbing that nitrogen and pulling it out. But if you plant things like alfalfa or sugar snap peas or other legumes, they're grabbing that nitrogen out of the air, putting it down into the ground that other plants can then use. So it's just a fantastic way to build up the soil, which is what we're trying to do in that area. Because I think we're going to have another food fence in stock, in our future next year. So maybe we'll just do a second sugar snap seeding.
I love that.
We might as well try it.
I think that's a great idea. We need more sugar snaps. And actually, the way to plant sugar snaps, and I always forget to do it this way.
I know.
You should plant them every 2 weeks because they have about a 2-week harvest period. And so if you can stagger that planting, you'll be able to harvest. Because we love sugar snaps, and then they're gone.
Yeah.
And we're not even getting a good harvest this year, but hey.
Yeah.
So we should plant them now.
I do have potentially queued up that I gave Andrew the section where you weed whack, and I did think it was super interesting. Because when you originally, had told me we were gonna weed whack this, I was imagining like a gentle weed whacking, a trimming, and you scalped this lawn bare. Because your idea was, I'm killing everything, that is a weed, grass, dandelions,
And I
whatever
learned how to
might
do
be
this
there.
as an 18-year-old landscaper.
Yes, and it worked out great,
And
and we
almost getting
didn't have
fired.
to dig, and you did it. I think it took you 7 minutes. It was
Yeah.
unbelievable, and then we were ready to build our beds, I should
And
say.
just in case it thought about coming back after scalping it like that, I poured a bunch of hot fertilizer on it, so it's just
Yeah, exactly.
And it's
All right,
great. All right.
Andrew, if you can.
Poor Andrew. And Andrew,
Poor Andrew.
we were
It's
like,
a-
hey, we're changing the format tonight, and I hope you're ready to read our minds about what videos should pop up.
Yeah,
Good luck
exactly.
tonight.
Exactly. And he's doing it. So this is the part 1 of a food fence, and it's that 8-minute, 39-second mark of weed whacking, of Matt out there as a mad scientist creating our brand new garden bed where previously there was lawn and clover and
It's a
dandelions.
proud talent of mine.
It was a great idea, and it worked. It's working. I mean, that looks amazing.
And we are back.
Are mics hot? All right. So I just think I love how like barren that area is to
Yeah.
really show what we did.
Yeah, can we like put that like shot up as the background?
Oh,
You know
you're
what I mean?
really
So-
making Andrew work on the fly.
I mean, I don't know, and maybe
you're gonna owe him you're gonna
can
owe
you
him
make
piece
me
of
look a
candy
little
after
fitter?
this. Yeah. All right, Commander has a question.
Well, not so much a question, but just for those of you who don't know Matt, this is a kind of a perfect example of his personality. If he's going to do something, he's going to go to the absolute extreme. If is he going to weed whack, he's going to weed whack down to soil.
There's no
middle ground.
Middle ground for this.
Yes.
And I mean, I scorched that thing.
Oh yeah.
Look at that. Nothing's growing there for quite a while.
Yeah, it's perfect.
But which is exactly what we wanted, and it's held up actually. It hasn't grown in. Still looking good if you see some of the videos from earlier. But look at that technique. You always got to remember the direction that they're spinning. Get right near that metal, but you don't want to be hitting that metal for a million reasons.
You have a good technique with the weed
I
whacker.
really do.
All right, so our plan was to weed whack, and then I want to get this right because it was actually ended up being quite extensive. Then we were putting fertilizer down, and it was actually basically our own custom mix, which ended up being, in general and all purpose, a 4-4-4 type of nitrogen, phosphorus, potassium mix. Something that would be able to support all of the plants, and it's something that we had in-house that we had made. And then we added dolomitic lime. And do you want to talk about, one, why we put the fertilizer directly on the weed whacked area, which you talked about before, and then two, why we covered it in lime?
Yeah, I personally find at least in New England soils, I can never get enough lime. Lime is calcium, magnesium, and carbonate, so it raises the pH. And especially where we're growing tomatoes, and I know the soil's kind of thin, and I see, slightly acidic, not a lot of lime in it. Look at all that.
Oh, yes,
And that's just
Andrew.
beautiful. So, yeah, Andrew.
You're killing it. That is the putting down of the fertilizer mix.
Yep.
And
And so we went deep. And now, so if there was anything living in there, it's no longer.
right, because it.
And the best part is, but when we're planting seeds and younger plants above that, they're not going to want that sort of hot soil. And what's going to happen over time, right? We're covering that with soil afterward. Is that will continue to break down.
right.
It's gonna. I mean, there's going to be worms pouring in around there, just eating and deepening that pocket, right? So that pocket's pretty firm right there. But I want to check it out at the end of the year. I'm going to dig out, and I'm willing to bet below that line, and you can see that line. It's kind of a tannish look. It's going to be black by the end of the year. That's my prediction.
Yeah. So you said, especially for the tomatoes, is why we put down the lime. And just to clarify for those who don't know, with tomatoes, they need a lot of calcium.
Yep.
And if they don't, they get something called blossom end rot.
Fact.
Yep. And it's when your tomatoes look like they're cracking and then maybe even rotting, like almost like they were left on wet soil.
That's like the extremity of it. Like it'll
Yes.
start off as cracking on your tomatoes.
Yes. And
it
you'll
feels
think
like
like,
the bigger
oh,
the
do I have a
tomato,
parasite?
the
Did
more
something
likely
happen?
it is. Like you don't see it as often on
It's true.
on the cherry tomatoes. But,
Yes.
And it's heartbreaking because you'll have like this big old beefsteak growing. You'll be near the end, and that's when you realize you have a calcium deficiency. It's a big crack or a blackened bottom.
Yes. Yeah, so the dolomitic lime helps to adjust the pH of the soil, which we know our soil over there is a little bit acidic because we see moss growth. but it also helps to add calcium back into the soil, which will help us have very healthy tomatoes. So that's why we put the dolomitic lime on top. And dolomitic lime has that calcium magnesium ratio, so it's just perfect that you want.
Absolutely.
Then the next thing we did was worm castings, and we do have a little clip on why we picked worm castings. Do we want to show that?
Yeah, and Jeff, if you got any questions along the way, like the or
No,
anyone-
I'm just absorbing all this.
Cool,
This
cool.
is
Yeah.
fascinating.
Yeah, it's a wild way to do it. Like
Yeah.
we didn't use a shovel. It was so cool.
Yeah, and it was not in like. If you think about, creating a wall, like a straight line of plants, right? If you create a garden in a square, right, inevitably there's going to be shading, right? And so we create this great little line, and there's shadow behind it, which is exactly what we want. That meadow where the chickens are is going to be shadier. It's going to create some blocking and cover up a big ugly fence too.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and actually, it looks like Andrew has it teed up, worm castings,
Mm-hmm. Homemade.
and then we can.
You want to hear it?
Yeah.
Can people hear us now too?
Mhm.
Okay, cool. So I wonder. Yeah, we'll need to figure out a way to actually listen.
1 sec. You guys talk for a sec.
Okay, we're still talking.
Oh, okay. Oh, it's
So
that's
May's
okay.
got a big
He
handful
doesn't wanna say anything.
of worm poopy. And look how happy
Yummy.
she looks.
I
Look at
mean, I
that.
look
Wait,
very happy.
Look at
Look
that.
at I look very
That is-
happy. That's a girl who just got worm castings for Christmas morning.
Yep. Rich in humic acids.
This. I
Now
think
why-
that's what I'm talking about.
Why are worm castings so amazing? Oh, should I shut up or
I have
talk?
audio now.
Okay, I'll be quiet.
No, you're good.
All right, go for audio on YouTube. One other ingredient that I forgot we had was our homemade worm castings made by using compost and red wiggler worms and a few European night crawlers. I'm actually going to add this on top of the fertilizer dolomitic lime layer. And the reason is worm castings are absolutely incredible for your garden, and especially if you had a couple bags of them hanging around. So I'm going to add it in. What it'll do is it'll provide really excellent moisture retention, as well as improve the structure of the soil. Plus, worm castings are packed with beneficial microbes, which will help the plants become more robust and pest and disease resistant. And then lastly, worm castings are really great because they provide slow release nutrients to your growing plants over time. I mean, they're incredible. So I was just thinking to myself, how far off the fence line should I plant this garden? And of course, everybody has come over to see what I'm doing. And as you can see, the chickens are able to easily pop their heads right through the fence line, which is fine. So I know for sure I'm gonna plant all of my seeds and seedlings one chicken head away at least. Otherwise, I'll just be putting a little drive-up buffet set up for them, which I don't want to do. So we'll definitely plant a little bit away from the fence line so that the plants have a fighting chance from the curious chickens here. Okay, time to spread these worm castings, which may even have some worms still in them.
Keep watching.
All right.
Yay!
Are we live?
Yes, we
Yeah,
are.
Cool.
we're back. So actually, I like it running in the background. You can see just spreading out the worm castings, but I thought that was just a nice little explanation as to why we add them and just how incredible they are. And these were our own worm castings, so there were actually some worms in there that hopefully they moved towards the center of the yard.
And
not
they were
towards
like the
fence.
most. These were some diesel worm castings. I'd been feeding the worms granulated flowering fertilizer, like high in phosphorus and potassium. One of the things, worm castings are amazing for a ton of reasons, but one of the primary reasons is they break down. So if you try to compost, is that the reason some people, Deb asked, is that the reason some people say adding crushed eggshells when planting tomatoes for the calcium? Lime sounds easier. Absolutely though, similar, it's the same
Yep.
thing. It's calcium carbonate is what the shell of an egg is made. Plus, lime's awesome because it's got magnesium. I'm not sure about eggshells, to be honest. I'll have to look that up. but like the ratio in lime, dolomitic lime, is really nice. So dolomitic lime will have calcium to magnesium ratio around 3 to 1 depending. And so if your magnesium gets too high, your calcium gets locked out, your phosphorus starts having issues. So all these positively charged, ions like calcium, phosphorus, potassium, magnesium, some for nitrogen. This is one, I forget, is it like ammonia? One of them, some forms of nitrogen comes in different forms.
Right.
They have different conflicts. But long story short, they start locking each other out and you gotta have them all in balance. But where was it going? And adding them eggshells, it's interesting how quickly they break down in worm castings too. But worm castings are amazing. So the way worms break things down, if you throw your compost in a hot compost pile, it breaks it down thermally. Some of the nitrogen is gonna be lost. You're not gonna develop humic acids. Worms don't use thermal, don't break it down like through thermal energy, like bacteria is not breaking it down specifically. They more break things down with enzymes, so it maintains more of the fertilizer, makes it more available, and additionally you get a lot of like byproduct like humic acids.
Why
it's more of a digestion process than a
Exactly.
chemical. Well, I mean, it is a chemical process.
Yeah.
It's just not gassed off. Like the nitrogen in particular is gassed off a lot. And
What does humic acid do for plants?
humic acid is a chelate, and that chelate means claw. And
This
it
is
holds
helpful.
on.
I'm liking the analogy
So imagine,
already.
right? I'm a claw. I'm a chelate. My hand's a chelate, and this is your let's say nitrogen or iron. Iron always loves a chelate, right? It's like, I'm stuck in the soil. I don't want to go in the plant. And I'm like chelate, and I'm like, I'm gonna grab you and now make it so easy. And here's the plant root, and it's like, now I can float up in the plant root. That was a really bad explanation. wasn't it?
Incredible, actually.
Well,
I
I mean,
totally get it now.
It's a claw that basically holds on to something and allows the plant to then take it and the claw up, from what I gather.
All right, let's hear Commander's
fact check.
version.
Well, I was gonna say that, like, isn't it something along the lines of like, is it like a chemical bond where they bond because of the bonding, it gains new properties that allow it to transfer easier, and then they can
Yes.
separate.
Yes.
Okay, so it's like almost like if you had salt and you wanted to move it from one place to another, you could dilute it in water and just pour it down like a chute or something, and then just.
Oh, all right. I
Heat it
like
up
that.
at the
I know
end.
what you mean. Yes. Okay. Wow, you guys are really helping me. So you use humic acid to help your plants access nutrients easier,
Exactly.
but does it make your soil more acidic, which could then lock things out?
It's so funny, right? And I've heard, I literally have heard people say humic acids, like humans consume it to prevent like acid reflux, which blew my mind. Yes,
Yes,
the
it
claw.
The claw! The claw decides who will stay and who will
What was your
go.
question about the chelates? Do chelates,
Does it increase the acidity in the soil?
do
Yes.
humic acids increase acidity?
Yes.
Acids increase acidity. You would think they would, but I remember they're almost like they generally do not.
No.
Yes.
Wow,
Despite that, in
very
general,
cool.
no, they're weak organic acids. But especially in
Interesting.
soil, they act more like buffers, which I didn't want to, which was kind of what I remembered. And they may slightly lower pH in very alkaline environments, but they don't make things acidic.
Very
Isn't that
interesting.
fascinating?
You know what else you just made me think of
So they
too?
buffer if it gets too high out.
Yeah.
Too
Yeah.
alkaline.
When you were talking about the worms making nitrogen more available, in aquaponics, the ammonia turns into the nitrite and then nitrate. Do you know what does that? Don't look it up. I know the answer.
How ammonia turns
yes,
ammonia to
since
nitrate?
there's no worms in the system.
Yeah, so it goes from ammonia.
No, I know, but you know what is acting on it to make it to go?
Bacteria?
Yes.
So it goes, interestingly
nailed
enough, right?
it.
It goes from ammonia to
I was trying to stump
nitrite
you, but you.
to nitrite
Yeah, to nitrate.
through the microbacter and then Simonis. Oh my gosh, what are the
All right,
microbes?
well,
So
clearly I
first it
picked
goes
the
from
wrong
ammonia to
topic to
nitrite,
stump
and then
you on.
nitrite to nitrate, and like you will theoretically you can have a nitrite escalation in an aquarium, for instance, but like I never have seen one because it would be like this specific microbe is missing, like you know what I mean? It's not like
it's so fast.
it usually
Yeah.
is like you either have an ammonia problem or you don't, you know,
Right.
and like if things are processing well, it's a nitrate accumulation,
Right.
and if your microbes are fried in your aquatic system, it's an ammonia issue.
All right,
That was
so
really nerdy,
should we
I'm
get?
sorry.
No, I loved
What
it. I tried to
microbes-
stump you, and then you just
I mean, this is
buried,
ultimately a
buried
science
me in
show.
microbes.
This is ultimately a science show. The nerdier, the better.
Yeah,
I'm
you know
sorry.
that is our tagline, Matt. The nerdier, the
Nitrosomonas
better.
nitrobacter. That's my prediction. I'm looking it up. Yes, Nitrosomonas, oh, there's a bunch, and then Nitrobacter is the second one. Yep.
Amazing.
So Nitrobacter takes nitrite and converts it to nitrate. So nitrite is NO2, and nitrate is NO3.
and you
so
can
there's
buy
an extra.
Bacter for your aquariums. That's what you're
Yeah.
doing to help.
But like literally, if you have a nitrite accumulation, you're like, this one microbe is not around, but
Right.
the other. And my hunch is they all play together. I just
Right.
haven't seen it. Has anyone out there ever had a I've never even seen nitrites show up on my like test meter. Someday. I actually don't hope. Do I hope
Well,
for it?
No.
I mean, I know nothing about this, but is it a stable compound?
Nitrite
Yeah, because it might just not be very stable.
is nitrite.
I
stable?
don't. Yeah, I guess.
Uh,
How do you define that?
not very stable.
Oh, there you go. So
It
it's
is
also
an intermediate in the
Nerds
nitrogen
unite,
cycle and tends to
yes.
convert quickly into other forms.
nerd 2 squared ever.
Rapidly converted to nitrate by Nitrobacter and Nitrospira.
I love it. I love it. All right. So we went fertilizer, dolomitic lime, then we added worm castings.
Yep.
Then and
This is
we
actually a sick. I love that.
this look. Yeah, this look
is
is
sick.
good. You're kind of getting
Just
the
the logo's a
whole-
little
So
weird,
cool.
but
I
I like
like
it.
it.
Perfect.
We do have a clip. It's 10 seconds of just dumping out the first layer of organic soil we did, but we can just show it in the background if we want.
Nerds unite.
Yes, nerds unite. I know, I love that. But basically, we then added. Yes, here we are. Here's me working hard. It started to get hot. I had to take my hoodie off. Mackie moment. I was like, I just moved several hundred pounds of organic.
Poor Manny. And then I was like, we need more worm castings.
Yeah, so we did the first layer. We did 10 cubic feet of organic raised bed mix, and that's what I'm putting out there. And then I'm just talking about how you try not to step on it because as I pound it in to break up the stuff. But you want to keep it light and fluffy so that young roots can move into it. And then this was going to be it, but then Matt remembered that he had 4 bags of 50-gallon bags of worm castings tucked underneath a table
Happened to be.
at the warehouse.
Happen to be accumulating worm
And
castings like every other normal human being.
Right as I was finishing up, thinking, "Oh my God, I did it!" Matt literally like pulled around the corner with a truck filled with a few hundred pounds of worm castings and was like, "Can we
To
talk?"
Commander's point earlier.
Yeah.
Could just stop.
And they were filled with tomato seeds. So now there's
More
tomato.
worm
now there's
castings. More
tomatoes
need more
growing everywhere,
tomatoes.
but-
You know that.
So we then
The
added
real
the soil. Then we then added the worm castings. So then we needed another layer of soil. And do you remember what you did to that final layer of soil before I planted? It looked like a U.
Yes. Oh yeah. I dug a ditch out.
You created a trench, which I thought was
Trench.
really smart. So we now had we had created a mound of soil up against the fence, and I thought this was really smart to keep the water sitting on this hill that we had just built, and none of the seedlings from washing away. Matt kind of made like this really nice shallow trench, which helped to give a really nice pocket to plant everything, which kept everything in a line, but also made watering really efficient.
Yeah.
And that worked out really well. That was smart
Thanks,
of you. You're
thanks.
welcome.
Once in a
I
while.
pay attention to what
Once
you're
in
doing.
a while.
So
Usually it doesn't go well.
yeah, so we then planted, we did seedlings on that, we planted direct in some of the pots that we had, and then the last thing we added was rice hulls, which I think Andrew also has queued up, and I think in the beginning I talk a little bit about why we love them, because I love rice hulls. I made a whole video. I think it was
It
going to
was
be
called I Love Rice.
yeah, I
Hulls.
think it was going to be 5 reasons I love rice hulls, and it was like 16 reasons I love
Yeah.
rice hulls. I couldn't stop, which is like a Nerds Unite moment to the max. All right, yes, go for Sep 10 cover with rice hulls. And you can mute us, Andrew. Yeah, look how excited. They're going to help to trap in moisture below so that my young roots and my upcoming seeds keep their moisture in and are more likely to germinate and keep growing and not dry out. They're also going to help to prevent weeds, airborne weeds, from landing in the soil and being able to penetrate down and become weeds. They'll land on this hydrophobic layer up top that should prevent them from germinating because it'll be dry and void of nutrients. And they're light enough that my upcoming pea shoots.
Dude,
It paused. It paused.
perfect timing for a pause.
Yeah, the
too.
video paused while I was attempting to whistle.
That is
YouTube is
awesome.
paused while I'm attempting to whistle.
Did you want it paused?
Oh no, is it over?
Are we live?
Yeah, you're live.
We're speaking? Go back to that scene, Romania.
No. Oh yeah.
You guys are live.
All right.
All right, awesome. All right, so this is just me dumping the rice hulls in after saying some of the reasons that I love them. And I just want to say, now that you can hear us again, rice hulls are the goat. So we get these in 50-pound bales, and you can see one bale, I mean, it's busting out of my wheelbarrow, expands to 7 cubic feet of material, which is just wild.
It's amazing.
It's amazing. And so what it is when you have rice, rice has a little husk around it or a little hull, and that has to be cracked off so that it can be used for food or whatever it's going to be used for. And that's actually a waste product of the rice industry. So, you know, if it weren't for gardeners and chicken keepers and other people have used for rice hulls, brewers, I believe, use them, you know, they would just be a waste product. But they become this really awesome, inexpensive input. And they really help to make the soil porous. They help to with watering by spreading out the water. They're light enough that little seeds can shoot through, and it's just like a magical ingredient. And then eventually they'll break down as silica to your soil, food for microbes, food for worms. So they're really great. And my poor chickens, you can see them, think that I have just spread seed. I have not. And they're all in the chicken coops. The chickens are very used to them. This is their bedding and the guinea pig bedding.
And like, there's so many reasons to life. Look at how much. And what's
Hey, Chris.
Yep.
We miss you, bud.
Hi
We
from
need to
New
get some.
York.
We're gonna get some worms up there next time.
Yeah,
But,
that would be amazing.
So much worm farming opportunity. It is super fun, especially when it's going. And I mean, I love it because I feed my fish them and so much. But with rice hulls, like too, look at the reflection you see, right? Like
From jet
they're
black to
they're
bright
just incredible.
yellow.
Year one, right, when you cover them as a mulch, right, they're great. They're going to reflect light, hold in moisture. I remember when I first started putting them out, I'd see the chickens pecking through. I'm like, what are you guys doing? You don't eat those. There's no food in that for you. But the reason they were pecking was because right under the surface, it's such healthy soil. It's just filled with worms and little bugs, and like it's just that you create the healthiest soil. Whenever I see soil exposed, it's like an open wound to me. Like soil is ultimately a big network of life. It's basically one giant living organism, and it does not want its flesh, its soil exposed. It's always, you don't see healthy soil. When you see soil uncovered, it won't look like that if you come back a week or two later. It'll turn into sand. You know, all the organic health and life will wash out of it. And so the best circumstance can be when there's air. Yeah, bud. Oh,
I'm gonna join
I'm heading
next
up
time.
tonight. I miss it there. Oh my gosh, do I?
He has not stopped
I had
talking
the best
about
weekend.
being in New York at your farm.
But yeah, you can see, like, when you see those patches, I see like soil dying. And so rice hulls are amazing because you just have the best soil right underneath that you would otherwise not have. And that's year one. Additionally, it's reflecting sunlight right back to the plant. And once this season's over, you rake that in, it slowly breaks down. It adds aeration. It's kind of like, people use perlite. I don't really like using perlite because it tends to just accumulate on the top. And instead, with that, we're doing great because, you know, it buries. What's up, Sonny?
Our favorite baby.
And
Yeah,
so,
I could talk about rice
I could talk about rice
forever.
hulls all day.
I love it.
Love that stuff.
All right, so that was the first. That was, if you can believe it, part one. The food fence ended up being a larger endeavor than we originally thought. So we finished it We filmed that
It's so
video.
much cooler.
It's so cool.
It like when I come home and see it, it's like it looks so much nicer than I ever thought. You know,
I
it's
do
like a
too.
very pretty garden.
It's a really pretty garden. But I was gonna say before
Sorry.
please don't apologize. I was just gonna say it went from what they just saw to what we saw in the beginning, which was us trellising it. But in the middle, we got a nor'easter.
So 3 days after planting, we got 7.2 or something, over 7 inches of rain in a night.
Yeah.
I remember that.
And
Yes.
Did you
well,
get
it was
video
3
cue on
days
that
after.
one?
Yeah. So
And
that's
what we
the
initially
last
planted got
clip I have.
pretty devastated. It
Yes.
wasn't in great shape in the first place. We kind of let it, you know, you get busy, your plants in little containers get too big, and you know you're like, it's all right. Once you transplant, you're gonna do great.
Yeah. So the last video I have is just kind of talking about some of the lessons that we learned. We can go over them or we can show it. It's up to you guys, whatever you guys want to do.
Show it.
All right, let's cue it up, Andrew.
Video's worth 1,000,000 words, or pictures worth 1,000.
Well, there's
Well,
pictures.
if a picture's worth 1,000 words, then the video's
And we're at
probably
a
worth
60.
about 1,000,000.
We're running
Oh,
at 30,
this
30
picture is worth
frames,
1,000.
30 FPS. Yep, there we go. Just
Oh
leave
my
that.
gosh, you guys, I feel like I might be picked on a little bit here.
Why?
Oh, we love you, Mandy.
I know.
Why?
just-
Well, it's
yeah.
because me and Jeff can't
Some
handle
of the
it.
tomato plants, especially that we put in, as well as some of the cucumber plants that we put in, we're kind of struggling. We left them in small pots for probably a little bit too long. They've kind of gotten a little bit mucked up by the chickens because we left them inside the fence when they were in those small pots. So they had really gone through the thick of it. So they weren't in the best shape when we
No,
planted
not
them.
a
And
left
then
on it.
Shortly after
Look at Brian Bear
planting,
just sitting there.
we had really intense weather. So that's our second lesson learned. Be aware of what the forecast is. 2 days after finishing the plant fence, a nor'easter rolled through New England and we got 7 inches of rain in a single day. And not only was there a ton of water, but there was also just a huge onslaught of kind of pelting rain. It wasn't a gentle mist, let's just say. So that definitely kind of hammered these already kind of in a little bit of rough shaped plants. The third thing we learned was how important it is to overseed, and that's actually a success. I really seeded heavily in the sugar snap peas, the snow peas, and the shell peas that I planted, and that has really paid off. I'm sure not all of those seeds have survived, but tons of them have, and I'm really happy for that, especially given the weather that they were subjected to. The other lesson that we learned was just how persistent these chickens are to not only attempt to get at the plants we're planting, but really also just to explore and dig in the soil that we've just put down. Some of the tomato plants here were broken just really by curious chickens kind of grabbing at their leaves and pulling them in and just kind of snapping them. So I'm definitely gonna, when I replant, just go a little further away from the fence to start where the plants are establishing. And then as they get towards the fence, if they get grabbed or whatnot, you know, a leaf here or there is not gonna be a big deal, and they'll be a little bit taller by the time they touch the fence, which will make them less of a buffet item for everybody behind me. The last lesson we learned was that yes, we did put everything on this side of the fence, which is definitely keeping, you know, the majority of dog and chicken traffic out of our new little garden here. But we should have done a better job letting any visitors know that this kind of rice hull area is not meant for walking. And so we've had a few footprints in the middle of some of the young plants. Just should have done a better job letting people know that this was an active garden that we were working on and, you know, help us out to keep all the plants safe. So left her apartment.
You guys.
Yes! All right. I mean, that was a tough video to film because you want to be somebody who's like, man, am I on top of it? And I also want to be someone who's like, gardening can be really hard, and those decimated plants were very sad to see after that nor'easter and after the chickens had gotten them, and we're very sad to film but very honest. And if you're a gardener or you love plants, you know it can happen. And it was a bummer.
But I will say, you know, the upside to situations like that is you set your bar. And we set the bar real low.
That's a good point.
You know, it was like, all right, we can only make this look better.
And
we did.
You know, we started with part 3.
Whoa.
Where you see, where you see them being trellised, and they really did bounce back. They
really
look
did.
incredible.
It's funny, sometimes, especially if you put a lot of organic inputs in, I've noticed when you first transition plants, I've seen them grow, especially if you come from using salts, you tend to see quick growth, and it's almost like when you move into organic, like the microbiology needs to match up with the plant. It almost takes a while to get going, and then once it does, though, it's unstoppable.
Yeah.
And I will say, like, we set the bar low, but and also, you know, after that rainstorm, I was worried, and I would have been more worried if we didn't have so much organic matter and humic acids to hold on to nutrients and all that other good stuff, and some biochar mixed in.
Yeah.
Because when you have heavy rains like that, it can just deplete all your organic matter and your soil, especially if you're on a slope.
You know, I think it's worth talking about biochar really quick because I think I bring it up in every live from the lab that I'm in.
We can't not talk about biochar today, can we?
And if I'm a lady who loves rice hulls, I'm also a lady who loves biochar. So, but the thing about biochar that I think it's underrated in is the structure of the soil. What do you know about biochar, Commander? When you weren't in the last video, I just asked Commander questions that I know he doesn't know the answers to, which is terrible.
I mean, I love biochar so much. Well, actually, was that your idea or my idea to add it as a ingredient to a snapping turtle tank?
That was my idea.
2 days ago.
I added it to everything.
Unfortunately, it did float along the top, and I was like, Zach, this is gonna work well. I'm 60%
we were gonna put it in
sure.
the bag, anyways, we're helping with.
I should go stop by there tonight or tomorrow morning.
We should say really quick, the New England Wildlife Center is caring for 32 rescue turtles, including a 50-year-old snapping turtle named Whopper.
He's really sweet.
He can't help who he is.
No, as far as snapping turtles, I mean, like they've got a number of them, and there's this other one in there that
he's trying to get out constantly.
Who's almost as big as Whopper, 34, and it's just,
34 pounds.
He did latch onto someone's hand.
Yes, he's gotten a few people.
But he could have taken her fingers off and chose not to, which is.
Yeah, they did think he didn't bite up full force out of generosity.
I think he, to be honest, that one, this giant snapper. I don't know if we can pull that video up?
Yeah, you could.
Is this way off topic? Do we want to change?
I think it's okay to be off topic, but okay. I was just gonna tell them. So a pond not far from us is being dredged, and oftentimes, when the pond is dredged, measures aren't taken.
I just got an ad on your video.
What?
On the live stream?
I just pulled up the turtle video.
Yeah.
We're a day away from that matter.
Yeah.
7 hours of watch time.
Yeah. But anyways, so oftentimes when ponds are dredged, measures aren't made to protect the existing wildlife, which is counterintuitive because the reason they're being dredged is to help make them better for the people who enjoy them, but also the wildlife. But in this case, the wildlife was very much taken into consideration, and the town spent a month of their time, the town of Quincy, trapping turtles, which was just awesome. And they got all of them out, and they're staying at the New England Wildlife Center while their pond's cleaned up, which is just so awesome. So we got the very great opportunity to help create some more natural tanks and enclosures for these animals while they're waiting to be re-released.
The time is tough, right? Because by the time, if the project gets delayed, you can't release the turtles in November.
Yep,
they don't have time to situate themselves before winter.
That's right.
So hopefully they're going to, go back out and only be staying in the Wildlife Center Hotel.
Yeah.
A beautiful hotel with veterinary care, and the team there is amazing.
Hand
they've been
leech
working
removal.
their tails off with constantly.
Yes.
So I'm like, all right, let's reduce your workload if we can and make it a long-term situation.
Yes, this is the video. This is Matt getting the phone call from Zach saying, I'm hoping you guys can help.
No, you're live.
We're
Yeah.
live. Cool.
Oh my gosh, and here are some of the
And
turtles.
here's some of the turtles. Look at those painted.
A bunch of painted. I think a musk turtle, and then the alligator snapping turtles are the species that they have. And this is the start of the
playing
video.
slow-mo.
So, but look at how beautiful those babies are. And you'll see in a second. There she is.
That's Whopper.
That's Whopper. 34 pounds. This
Probably 50 years
animal
old.
is giant. But
We'll
anyway,
go back to them. There's
we're
some
gonna
good
use-
Whopper video in a sec.
We're going to use biochar to help populate their tanks with microbes,
So
which is
there's
how we
that.
got.
And so they have all these
into
tanks,
this.
and one of the suggestions I had for this would be, but it's tricky because these guys, the Wildlife Center has turtle care dialed. They have a huge turtle tank. The
Yeah.
snappers are unique. I was thinking about this after leaving there, and we're going to start off by adding substrate, and we have to some of these guys, but really the snappers, I think, will care more about having the substrate added because whenever I
Yeah.
see snappers, they're
Yeah.
immersed in it. They're not trying to.
They like to lay on the bottom.
That's
They're
their
not
life,
looking to
and, like,
bask on the top. Yeah.
Look at like their body, and I think we dive underwater soon if you hit play.
Yeah, I do. I think,
Yeah,
yeah,
you can
this
go
might be the
forward
part.
a little.
We've got Matt
This
did
is
a
really
great...
cool shot. I used the GoPro and went in there. I wasn't sure.
There
if
he is.
It was
There's
So
Whopper.
he was. I mean, from above, it looked like he was hunting the camera. It's cool because now seeing it below, he's just clearly not. He's just checking out what I'm doing. He seems unalarmed.
I mean,
And
he's
50
got, like, years
and
old.
as far as snappers are concerned, like there's some that are quite feisty. He's got like a gentle kind of demeanor to him. Don't get
Yeah.
me wrong, he could take your hand off in
Yeah.
a bite, like
for sure.
literally. They're unbelievably powerful.
Yeah, and they have really long necks. They can get you if you hold them wrong.
Yeah.
But so we're gonna add biochar to their tanks.
And
to help-
next, and if you watch the follow-up video that we've already taken, we're doing a part 2 where we actually add a bunch of substrate in. It's unbelievable to watch Zach handle that turtle. It's like he just picks it up,
Yeah.
boom, holds it, puts it down. And while we were working, so he wanted to. I mean, this is how great a care these guys get. He's like, I'm gonna let, because of the leeches and skin. He's like, I'm gonna let them dry out for about 30 minutes or so. So Whopper, while we were working and trying to fix stuff, was under the table right behind my leg as I'm filming and could have easily just grabbed a chunk of my leg out. And Jack's like, just be careful not to like accidentally kick him. And I was like, oh my, I forgot there was a gigantic snapping turtle.
Alligator
next to my
snapping
foot.
turtle.
Yeah, I don't know how comfortable I'd be having a snapper right behind my.
I mean, to me, it's the coolest thing ever.
Yeah, it was really cool. You should have seen the joy on Matt's face when he was like, I just got a call from Zach. There's a turtle rescue that we
mean,
can help with. I was like, oh,
Hanging
gosh.
out, absolutely. Having one in striking distance of my legs.
Yes, yeah.
I mean, you forget too, because it's unbelievable their reach of their neck. It's like they can get so far.
Yes.
And
yeah,
so
they're-
you really underestimate them. I mean, they can get how far relatively?
All right, you're gonna look it up. Well, so the way that they hunt, the reason why their necks are so long is they have an appendage in their mouth that wiggles like a worm, but it's part of their body, and they lay in the muck, and that's why you'll see like moss and algae and stuff on a lot of them, like Whopper there. They'll lay with their mouth open, and then a fish will come by and bam-o! So they literally go fishing with their mouths, which is just so cool.
So they can reach more than half the length of their shell, right? So this guy, he was like, man.
Yeah, so a lot of people, when they go to like help them across the road, if they grab their shell on either side like you would most turtles, you absolutely can lose
Like just
a
to put in
finger.
perspective, right? Like that means like this snapper, like he's at least this big, right? So, that's.
Yeah.
So you're saying, right? Like, let's kind of do a little.
All right, well here, push
Let's
it.
try.
Okay, now this way. Yeah, there you go.
Oh man, this is tricky. We need 4 pieces of paper. But anyways, just imagine this is kind of their reach, right? So you're looking at him. This is the turtle. He could grab me from like all the way over here, and you totally underestimate them because they'll be just sitting in their shell, or you'll be grabbing them like that or near the front, and they'll just whip around and grab you.
Yeah.
But it's just
Yeah.
unbelievable, and that's how they hunt.
Yeah, no,
So
they're
cool.
fascinating and amazing creatures.
So cool.
Absolutely amazing. I love that they're all covered in moss and algae. They're so cool.
I always think about that old myth of the world being just on top of a turtle. And,
Oh, I've seen
like
that
they see
drawing.
exactly.
Yeah.
They see the moss. People see the moss and stuff on it. And they're like,
Yes.
oh, that makes sense. That's what we're just on a bigger turtle.
I like that. I like that. I know what you mean. I've seen that.
Love that.
So just to touch base, so biochar is what we were chatting about. We didn't mix in biochar kind of raw. We had it in our worm castings. That's how it got put into the matrix of the raised bed.
Yes,
Or
yes.
the food fence, I guess. And biochar is super cool because it's basically like the bottom of your fire pit. Not exactly because it's been smothered so that it doesn't lose its structure, but it's a carbon shell of wood, basically, and it's 1 gram of biochar has anywhere from a volleyball court to a half acre of surface area. And 1 gram is a couple little pieces, and so those holes, all that porosity provides home for microbes, which are awesome for the soil.
Are we talking the food fence or the biochar?
Well,
I
I was
put
talking
biochar
about, I was
everywhere.
talking about yes, but we originally got on biochar. We're talking about the food fence and how
Oh,
it
that's where the
improves soil
transition came
structure.
from. You're right. Should we go back to food fence stuff?
Well, I was just going to talk about it in regards to soil structure, but we don't have to go back. We can stay on turtles.
No, did we talk about everything we were going to talk about? Did we show all the clips we were going to show?
We showed all the clips.
Cool.
We talked about all the things.
I mean, yeah. We've
So-
been going a while too. We don't, we can wrap
Yeah,
up. Too.
yeah. I was just, you had mentioned biochar as part of
Just in an hour.
soil structure. So
Yeah.
that was also, as I say, the last thing about it is because it holds onto nutrients when rains come through, nor'easters come through, or just from general watering, it actually prevents the runoff of nutrients because they soak into all those little holes.
It's like
So
a magnet. Yeah,
it's unbelievable.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
great. It
it's
really
really
is.
good.
And Mandy had the great idea of like applying it to our slope in our backyard, and we have
Right.
been slowly doing it. It definitely seems to be like the raspberries starting to blow up there. Things are starting to take
Yeah.
hold, which is nice. Whereas it was like when you have a steep slope, it can be really hard to get anything to start going.
There's an invasive worm species that's starting to show up around our area in New England, and one of the ways that they say to battle it is biochar.
What worm?
I am blanking on the name. I'll have to look
It's
it
the
up.
one that's the snake one.
Yes, it's like
Those
a jumping
things.
worm.
I've seen
or
those, the
something.
jumping worms. Yeah,
I think it's a
we've
jumping
had
worm.
those, and they disappeared because you know who loves the jumping worms?
The chickens.
Chickens.
Chickens are great for bugs.
I don't see them anymore because
Yeah.
I was seeing them in
Yeah.
the yard. There you had shown up. I
Yeah.
remember that years ago, and
Well, the reason that you don't want them is I was doing some research
Yeah.
on them because I had a customer come into Gardin and ask about it, is their castings are not like worm castings from native species. Or
Really?
yes, they're like a muddy, so they completely deplete the soil. And so biochar helps to build it back up. But yeah, so I don't know if you, do chickens like jumping
They
worms?
do.
Is that what you asked? Yeah, there you go.
they're great.
Yeah, so anyways, I just thought that was really interesting, and it's because it's so good at soil structure.
And so I know there was like all sorts of concern. I remember about them out competing native worms, but then we covered this. There's no such thing as a
I
native
know.
worm in North
Did you
America.
know that? There's no such thing? All earthworms, worms is a
It's
shame.
the same with honeybees. There's like a
But
lot of
are
like concern over the
non-native.
loss of honeybees and worms, but neither are actually native.
What was breaking
I had
down
no
the
idea.
soil before? I know you did a short on this.
I knew about the honeybees.
Microbes, fungi.
Yeah. You knew about the honeybees.
springtails.
Yeah,
And for honeybees, they're displacing, I'm sure, other pollinators.
right.
So,
Yeah,
native
that's a really good
pollinators.
point.
But man, I love honey. So I'm on board with the honeybees are like the most important thing and the only way anything will ever be pollinated on Earth.
Yeah, we love honeybees.
Belief. There's that
We'll want to
mindset,
support
which
the bees in
doesn't-
our
There
yard.
is, yeah.
which is like, but there's a lot of other bees. Like bumblebees are native.
Really?
Yeah.
That is awesome. I love
I'm pretty
bumblebees.
sure.
They never sting.
Yeah.
They don't.
Well, they don't want to because they'll die.
Yeah, it's
Honeybees,
very
I
rare.
think, might be the same. It's wasps that can keep on trucking.
Oh yeah,
Oh,
no, we
yeah.
had a
They get
wasp
ya.
nest right outside of our house once. They were vicious.
Yeah, they're not good.
So a couple days ago, I was swatting at what I told everyone were horseflies. I don't know if I told you about this.
No.
And I swatted one because I thought, I was like, no, they just look like bees. It's called biomimicry. And I got stung. Sorry.
My favorite, and then I
yeah,
know
my
where-
hand's still a little.
my favorite bee story is
I've been stung so many
we've got to
times.
find this. Like 10 years ago, you were at the New England Wildlife Center, and a paper wasp nest was built like right near the entrance, and so they were
Oh, yeah,
very
I have
worried
a video.
that people were going to get stung. So they asked Matt and Harry
No one asked us.
to go to get down, and so they drove
Me
a
and Irvin,
truck
my
with
friend
like
Irvin.
masks and a hockey
It was like
stick.
that big, and my friend, we drove by with my truck, and he had a bat and just smacked it, and then quickly dropped the bat and put the window up. We didn't get stung then, but there were some remnant ones. I got stung twice trying to like finish the job, and I remember these were these bald-faced ones, the big ones. They're I just remember I was trying to destroy the remnants of the nest, and I started running away, and from like 20 yards, it just started chasing me and then stung me right in the face. Right
Yeah,
above my
Oh,
eye.
yeah.
look at you.
This wasp nest is, I mean, it was a little guy, but I was just walking to my front door and he came. I've never seen any sort of like bee or wasp do this. He came stinger first, just flew right into my face.
Yeah.
Oh my
Like
god!
an inch from my eye. Like just, he didn't land and then sting. He stung.
He
as
was like, "I'm
flied.
doing it."
It was like a kamikaze. It was the wildest thing. And of course, it's like right below my eye, so it hurt like crazy.
It is when you do get stung, you forget how horrible it is until you get stung.
Yeah, it took like an hour before it was like not.
Look at this
miserable.
shot. I actually,
I actually
like
really
it.
love that.
Yeah.
I love
It's
that.
very cool. Yeah.
So I think we did.
I do have
it
one last
all.
trivia question.
I like
Okay,
this.
if any, this is the bumblebee a species?
Okay, versus a breed.
Yes. Yeah. Versus a bunch of species. That's kind of a hint.
Okay, so it's multiple species are under the umbrella term bumblebee.
All right. Long story short, there are about 50 species of bumblebees native to North America. What's this about? Can't you give me an exact number?
About 15. Well, there's clearly some scientific debate going on right now.
Yeah, I mean, it might be a
Why
matter of.
about?
Yeah, why about? Maybe native is what's
An
throwing them off.
exact number. You're
Yeah.
just being sloppy.
Don't
Do you
let
think I'm too
ChatGPT
dumb
get
to
away with that.
remember an exact number? I love exact numbers.
Yeah.
Precision.
What'd
is
they
beautiful.
say? Good catch.
Oh yeah, you're right. You were right. Bumblebees are classified based on morphology, genetics, and behavior. DNA analysis improves science. Blah blah blah.
Okay, so there's some scientific debate.
Geography. You really nailed it, Mandy.
Yeah, thank
Wow. Similar looking.
Yeah.
Above 50 is
Yay!
flexible working number.
And I
Yeah.
imagine that they just, is it possible that they just recognize that they haven't found every species? Because I mean, I imagine with bugs, it's much harder to find
Oh,
every.
for sure. And the fact that you put the word native in your search term is
Yep.
gonna make
Mess with
it
Yep.
a bit subjective potentially.
Yeah, and so I mean,
You know what my favorite invasive species is?
What?
Tumbleweed.
yes.
Oh, what's not to love? The first time a tumbleweed rolls across your car in the Midwest, it's a joyous
Oh my God! When we were in
experience.
Colorado, I remember we lived
We were
backed up to
so
like prairie.
excited.
Until one day, there was this windstorm, right? And this was early on. I was like, "Is this going to happen a lot?" Because it was like the first year we lived there, and for whatever reason, the entire side of our yard got filled with tumbleweed because it all like blew over our fence into our yard into this pocket. So literally, it was like a 40-foot stretch of tumbleweed. I spent 2 hours like clearing out. Do you remember that? I wish I had taken pictures.
Absolutely remember
Unbelievable.
that. I remember the first time one
Like,
went
wow.
over our car. But you also just gave me an idea, Commander. We should do a show called Our Favorite Invasive Species.
That's a great.
All right, so Commander said tumbleweed. I have one that's gonna blow your mind.
Oh, yeah?
Swans.
I hate swans.
Oh,
You like
mic
swans?
drop. You love swans.
I hate.
don't you?
They're
Swans
so
are mean.
mean.
Well, they're very mean, and
They're super
occasionally they kill
dangerous.
people.
Oh yeah, they're.
Well, most people don't realize they're invasive.
Really?
Oh, it makes
mute
sense that
swan.
I mean, you talk about swans. They're very European. Like every time I think swan, I think
Right.
European.
Well, you're right.
Stop
you are
looking
right.
at me, Swan.
Yeah. Yeah, I'll give one more invasive species factoid, and then we can wrap it up. Do you know the reason that you see so many turkeys in New England now, when we were kids, you never saw a turkey? Do you have any idea why that is?
No
This
idea.
is going to blow your mind. So pheasants are also obviously a ground fowl, and as are turkeys. Pheasants used to outcompete turkeys, which is why we never saw them. And pheasants are an introduced species from Asia. However, when coyotes started to get back up on the rise, when the ecosystem got healthy again, they eat pheasants because pheasants roost on the ground at night. Turkeys roost in trees. So when coyotes are out hunting, turkeys are up sleeping in trees, and their populations are able to bounce back.
You're right.
That
I
makes
haven't-
sense.
And
It
I
was
haven't
the
seen a
90s that
pheasant.
That's
You know
right.
what? Pheasant might be my new favorite invasive species, and I
Wow.
miss seeing them.
Well, there you go.
When's the last time you saw a pheasant? I
Well,
forgot
not
they
since we were
exist.
kids. That's right.
I
But
still
they're
remember-
invasive, so a native species were able to come back to up into the
Right.
ecosystem.
Well,
Yeah.
I still remember when the coyote started making that upswing in the 90s.
Right.
I had gone. We were young in high school. We went to, college. We went to a party, and I was going to crash at your house. So I got a ride back to your place, and you were out cold, and I was not going to ring your doorbell and wake your folks up at like 2 in the morning. I was like, I'll just walk back to my car, 6 miles away. And you know that
Classic.
I can't remember the
classic
name of the
young
road,
person.
but the road
You rode
that
walked 6 miles home.
no, not to where my car was at the party.
Okay.
It slept there, but there was a pack of coyotes following me at the street that yours ends on.
Wow.
And it followed me all the way to the main road. Like I could hear the pack, like I could hear the rustling and the occasional
Wow,
howl.
that's scary.
Are coyotes considered? So here's a wild thing, right? Like they're mutant. They're kind of like, I don't know, mutant's the word, but like they're now the ones we've got are a combination of dog, wolf, and coyote. Definitely never used to live around here.
Yeah.
Is that an invasive?
I don't know that it's an
know.
invasive because it's a new species. Because I don't think coyotes as they exist now have existed before.
It's a
Because
new
of its weirdness.
species. That's a great one too.
Your favorite new species?
Well, I don't know if
We just have 2 episodes and maybe the rest of my year covered.
I mean, I don't know if it's technically a new species by the scientific definition of species. but
Right.
It's something new that hasn't been around.
That is
before.
true, with a combination of coyote, wolf, and dog.
Yeah.
All right, should
Well.
we wrap it up?
I think we should. I think we had a very good week.
It's a blast.
I think we had a great week.
And I think next Friday is the 4th of July holiday here in the United States, if you're elsewhere, celebrating United
Independence
States
Day.
independence.
Yep.
Yeah, we're out there in New York.
So we probably
Yeah.
will not be having a show next weekend.
Right.
Next Friday.
Well, we'll be back
but
after that.
We will be back after that. And until then, keep nerding out, everyone.
Yep. And for those
Nerds
of you in the
unite.
States, have a happy and safe 4th.
Yes.
Go to
Bye,
sleep.
everybody.
Bye, everyone.
Hold on.
Oh, no.